Welcome back to the channel. I hope you are all doing well. Where have I been, you might have asked. Okay, you didn't ask, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I have been quite busy over the last dozen plus months finishing our 1100 square foot basement. That is 0.000102193 square kilometers for you metric folks. It was a massive project for me to finish, given that I have a full-time job, so my construction work was very much a part-time endeavor. I did not video the process because there is nothing fun about watching someone like me blunder their way through what I did. There's plenty of content on construction on YouTube as it is. Maybe I'll do like a quick video or something just showing what I ended up finishing for those of you that are morbidly curious. Okay, back to the shop. A popular quote that is often attributed to Leonardo da Vinci says that art is never truly finished, only abandoned. And I would assert that it is just as true for workshop improvements as it is for art. And I've had my eye on a big set of upgrades for a long time. I built this table saw station 15-ish years ago. It was sized to fit my Craftsman Model 113 table saw, which I purchased new from Sears in the mid-1990s, and it has served me well all of these years. However, the flimsy sheet metal legs that came with it failed me long ago, so I built this saw station as a replacement. On either side of the saw, under the wings, I built a couple of drawer units. The leftmost is open, which allows me to store a crosscut sled, various jigs and parts that are related to the saw, and other junk. There is plenty of opportunity for me to organize this and get my life together. The saw itself sits on a simple plywood box with a hole cut in the middle which matches the size of the opening in the base of the saw. This allows most sawdust to fall through and into the box, and it raises the saw up to a reasonable working height. The rolling base is very basic, really nothing special. It's made up from common 2x4 dimensional lumber, and it's covered with a sheet of 3/4 inch plywood. The base sits on a set of 6-inch neoprene casters for mobility. 2 of these casters are locking, so it doesn't move around when I have it parked, and this does provide me the flexibility to pull it out of my garage and into the driveway if I need to cut something massive that doesn't fit well where it's sitting now. The drawers on the right side of the saw are used to store a number of different things. Drill bits, extra saw blades, sanding belts, other miscellaneous stuff. They're not terribly well organized. I would rather use these drawers for things that are specific to the table saw rather than other random bits that you have around the shop. Additionally, some of these drawers stick. They don't close properly. Something's messed up. Either the drawer glides or misaligned, or maybe there's too much stuff in the drawers and they're bumping into each other, but I need to get that fixed. It's kind of annoying. I had recently put the original Craftsman motor back on the saw just to try it out operating at 220 volts and see if I could notice a difference between it and 110. And as you can see here, sawdust just builds up and builds up underneath the saw, and I have to periodically kind of dig in there, scoop it out, dispose of it, vacuum up all the sawdust that spews out of the back of it. It's a contractor saw, so it's open in the back, and that means you've got sawdust spray going everywhere. And I'd really like to do something to try to improve dust collection. The overall length of this saw station currently is right at 6 feet. When I bought my saw, I opted for the upgraded extruded aluminum fence that was offered by Craftsman. It was a worthwhile upgrade over the stock fence system, and it provides me with around 30 inches of clearance to either side of the blade, although I have found that is often not enough, particularly when cutting plywood. I had replaced the two cast iron wings that came with my saw with some laminated office desk cutoffs. They're about 1.25 inches thick, and I banded these with aluminum strips to provide a way to bolt up to the fence and reduce edge chipping of the laminate when I slide material around. This also had the bonus benefit of preventing sawdust from falling through the openings in the old wings and piling up on top of each drawer unit. At the back of the saw and on top of one of the drawer units, I keep a set of outfeed rollers that I had built quite some time ago. This isn't really the best spot for them. They just end up collecting dust, and honestly, I don't use them very often because the bench that they could socket into is almost always covered with crap. And right behind the saw, I keep a trash can so that any cutoffs that I have can be immediately dropped into the can, and then I wheel that out periodically and put it in my burn pile. Okay. So what is the plan? Well, the plans, there are a many. But the first and biggest will be the addition of another whole table saw. That's crazy talk, you might be thinking. Who in their right mind needs two table saws? And the answer to that question is those like me who are blissfully lazy. I strongly dislike blade changes, but to get the best and fastest cut, you really have to use an appropriate blade to the type of cut you're making. Rip blades have fewer teeth and deeper gullets to absolutely plow through material along the grain, whereas crosscut blades provide superior anti-chip performance when cutting across the grain. Yes, there are multi-purpose blades that attempt to bridge the gap between the two, but they always have trade-off in terms of speed or cut quality for convenience. Changing blades on my saw involves removing the throat plate, which requires unscrewing a bolt, which means I have to go get a Phillips head screwdriver from the toolbox. I then have to physically unplug the saw from the wall, because I value my fingers and I'm unwilling to stick my meaty bits into the mouth of the saw without assurances that it won't suddenly come on. I have watched the entire Final Destination movie series. I am aware of all the ways that fate can ruin your day. I then have to dig around, find a scrap of wood to wedge the blade, because the arbor nut is reverse threaded and it's always a bear to crack loose. I also have to avoid dropping that nut into the belly of the beast, because if I do, it burrows itself into the pile of sawdust under the saw and cannot be reached from the top side. So it requires walking around to the back and digging through sawdust filled with wood splinters that can embed themselves under your fingernail if you're not careful. None of this has actually happened, mind you. It's just theoretically possible. In short, I want two saws. I can load each one with a different blade and not have to bother with changing them so often. Life will be good.